to the Cultivating Calmness Podcast. My name is Kaela Vance, and today I want to talk a little bit about healing and your healing journey. What does healing actually look like? I mean, what do you think about when you think about something that is healing? So I don't know about you, but when I think about healing, I think about getting a cut or a scrape or a broken bone or something that may be pretty intense or severe, and it's going to take some time. I picture maybe some kind of wound in my head and what that process may look like over time while that wound starts to get better and better and better until you don't have it anymore, right? Maybe some of you thought about that. When we think about healing in mental health, I often compare it to healing like a wound. And I actually said a version like this earlier today with a client, and sometimes I will say these things in session and I can never repeat them exactly as I said them the way before, and I can never always remember some of the things that I say, so I wanted to get this one down so that I could use it again and again and other people could hear it. And I'm probably not unique. Other people have probably come up with this example themselves, but I find it helpful to give imagery when I'm sharing with people about lots of different things, because a lot of people can learn through what they see. I know I personally do. Visualizing or being shown an instruction, being shown how to do something, I can learn it a lot better than just reading about how to do something. So for me, that's why I use a lot of visuals in my practice. And that's why I try to provide you, the listener, with some visuals to take away, because I think those can be incredibly helpful in your healing journey and being able to find the resources that you need to maybe complete the tasks or to reach the goals that you have for yourself. So when it comes to healing from whatever it is that you're dealing with, it could be a physical ailment, right? Maybe you have some kind of autoimmune disease. Maybe you have a broken bone. Maybe you have a physical wound, but maybe you are healing from some kind of trauma that you've experienced in your life. That could be a physical trauma. It could be an emotional or mental trauma, some form of abuse or exposure, or maybe ill treatment, emotional, mental abuse, any number of things you could be trying to heal from, recover from, get better from, move on from, move forward from. Healing can mean all of those things and much more. And we all seek and find healing in many different ways. Some choose to go to therapy where they talk through their problems, and within therapy there are many different modalities. That means like many different types of treatment we can use to help you through those problems. I am trained in just a few of those things. Some clinicians are trained in many things. A lot of us find our niche or our specialty, and we try to focus on trainings within that niche that would be helpful within that niche. And it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of effort to get there and to gain all of that knowledge and then to put it into practice with you. Medical doctors, will do, help with healing in lots of different ways there, depending again on the illness that they're trying to treat. And even then, there are many ways to treat, a wound. Even as simple as something like Neosporin versus a healing salve made with calendula. So you can treat a wound, like a small cut or abrasion, with those two different things. So you ask two different people, you may get those two different results and two different options. So when it comes to treating and working towards healing, there are many ways to do that. And oftentimes it may take more than one option and more than one route to get there. Let me ask you this. I ask a lot of my clients, and most of them either haven't heard it, seen this image, or haven't seen it in a while when I bring this up. So when we start to talk about goals, we start to talk about what people envision, what you envision for yourself. As far as a goal you're reaching, where you want to be in life. And I often hear things similar to, why is it so hard? I thought things were going to be different. Healing I thought was supposed to make my life better, because sometimes healing means things might get worse before they get better. And there's this image that I've seen online, and there's many different versions of this image, and a lot of them say different things. One of the versions of the image I'm thinking of is there's a top and a bottom to the image, and there's a little stick figure at a starting line, and then there's a finish line at the other end. And at the top, let's say it's at the top, I don't remember which one it's at. At the top, it's there's a start line and a finish line. There's a straight line, and it says your plans, or your plan. Yeah, those are your plans. Those are what you think is going to happen, what you expect to happen, what you want to happen. Straight line, A to Z. I'm going to get there. Bing, bong, boom. We're done. Life is easy peasy, right? But then on the bottom, there's a very similar image. There's a starting line and there's a finish line, except there's twists and turns and valleys and hills, and there's like a little moat, like where you need a boat, and there's like a ladder where you need to do like monkey bars, and there's stairs, and there's all kinds of things that get in your way, and there's little flags along the way, little checkpoints. And then you get to the finish line, and that one usually says something like, God's plans for you, or the universe's plans for you, because we think reaching our goal is an easy, A to Z, we got there, it's done. But really, our healing and our path towards our goals are often not a straight shot. It's not, we're gonna get there real quick. There are twists and turns, ups and downs, good things that may happen, bad things that may happen, things that may set you back. You may have to repeat steps to get there. There may be forks in the road where, I'm no longer on this path. I may, have taken a turn to the right, and now I'm on this completely other path. Or, a turn to the left, and I'm on that path. And then maybe I come back around to the middle path at some point. But either way, we are taking a path that is best for us in that moment, and sometimes it's hard. So healing is not just a one size fits all. It's not something that generally is super easy to accomplish. Now, granted, there are times where healing does come easy for people, and it's like maybe something that comes to mind is if you go in for surgery and they suspect that, maybe you have cancer or it's some kind of tumor, we're going to go in, we're going to take it out and remove it, and we're going to test it. And you find out, no cancer. It was just it was a benign tumor. We were able to take it out, and there it is. It's gone. And maybe for all intents and purposes, that was it. The thing was removed. The healing is done. That is one perspective. Now, in that example, I would say there's additional healing that we would want to look into, but that is not part of this story right now. That is just an example of maybe an easier step versus we found out it was cancer. Well, now there's additional steps you may have to take that are more obvious, and things you may need to do to continue to prevent or remove the, cancer in this example. When I'm talking about the conversation that I had with a client earlier was about healing and how it seems like maybe things are harder. So I'm doing, EMDR with many of my clients, and what I often warn them about is that in this journey through using EMDR, things may be hard. It may bring stuff up in your life that you weren't expecting. It may bring thoughts to the forefront that you had thought you had pushed away. It may bring up memories that you never remembered, or body sensations, emotions, things that you either wanted to get rid of, don't remember, thought you had worked through and you were done with, etc. I've seen them all. And that in and of itself makes the working through it, the processing, difficult. It makes it hard, and it brings up a lot of emotions. And I hear from people, I thought this was going to be easier. Maybe I'm afraid of what's coming up. I don't want it to be harder. And what I say to that is that's your body healing. That is your body and your brain trying to get this stuff out. You trapped it inside. You've kept it inside, safe, tight, and, safe and sound for as long as you could. And usually what I see happen is maybe life is going great and then something happens. And that brings all that stuff you had nicely, packed away up to the surface. And then you start to see those symptoms and those things that trigger you really easily, and you don't like it. And so you reach out to someone like me and you try to get help for that, or fill in the blank, whatever the issue is that you're dealing with. But for, mental health and things like EMDR, that's what I can see. I can see these things come up. And so the example I gave was like, going through this healing, working on this trauma and trying to process is like healing an open wound. And, let's imagine that you have like a big gash on your arm, pretty severe. It was cut on something sharp, cut open. You had to get stitches. You had to use some kind of cream or lotion or whatever to prevent it from getting infected. I'm no doctor, but I imagine this would need to be wrapped up or covered in some way, at least for a little while, to prevent the stitches from getting infected, to, prevent maybe other bad things from happening. Well, let's say, normally what you would want to do to heal this giant wound would be to, just again, from my knowledge, is at some point you're going to have to remove the dressing, those bandages. You have to clean the wound, probably with something that you've been given to clean it with and you may have to do that back and forth for a while. You may or may not have to have stitches removed. And then you may have to keep some kind of something over it for a little while, maybe not. But you do this, you follow the steps, you do what you need to do. But in that process, right, it's healing. And if anybody's ever had even like the smallest cut on your finger or something, when those wounds are healing, there's that first, when the injury occurs, it may hurt. And then, maybe it subsides, the pain subsides. And then you go get the stitches, or, you put the Neosporin on it or something, and you wrap it with a Band-Aid, and then you take it off, right? And as it's healing, it may start to get dry and cracked. You may feel that pulling on the skin because, it's pulling tighter and it's working on creating and regenerating some of those skin cells and trying to, cover up that wound and create new. And in that, right, it becomes itchy, and, that healing feels like, oh my gosh, like I thought when I got the stitches, like that was painful, and that was the worst of it. But now, like, I can't keep my hands off of it. I just want to itch it. I want to, pull the stitches out. Like I want this to be done, because in the healing of the wound, that in and of itself hurts. And until it's over with, you may still experience certain amounts of pain, and, it may be triggering for you. It may cause life to be a little difficult in that process. But eventually, what we hope to see happen, and what I think is generally the case with these types of injuries, my imaginary injury that I'm helping you visualize here, is that you have a scar. You'll have a mark there. And even then, sometimes there are creams and things you can put on scars to even make the scar less obvious, or there are procedures that can be done potentially to cover up scars. But either way, like generally speaking, the scar doesn't hurt. You can touch it, you can move it, at some point in your future, that wound doesn't hurt anymore, but there is a visual scar from the accident, from the wound. And so you'll remember what happened. You may remember that it was painful, but you don't experience the pain anymore. The pain is no longer connected to the wound. And that's what healing with, like in mental health and trauma is that we want you to be able to move past that pain and not carry that burden around anymore. I can't make you forget. I can't make you forget the memories. I wish I could, because some of these memories just are terrible. I know that we all carry burdens, and we all have memories and experiences we would love to forget. And oftentimes it's the pain that's associated with those memories. So in treatment, we can help you to be able to figure out how to release that, how to put it in its proper place, and how to work through that, so that you're not carrying around that pain, so that wound isn't constantly bothering you. Now, let's say, as it relates to trauma treatment and as it relates to our imaginary wound, let's say we didn't take care of it, right? So we got this wound, we went to the doctor, they stitched it up, but like we were supposed to remove that dressing, and we were supposed to do certain things, and we didn't. We just left that dressing on there, and underneath that it's like festering, it's getting infected, bad things are happening, it's hurting more and more and more. Why? Because we didn't take care of it. We didn't address the wound. We didn't do what was needed, and we made our wound worse. And so trauma can be like that too. We try to push away our trauma. We try to ignore it, pretend it doesn't exist, because we're busy, because it's not appropriate, because it hurts too much to think about it or to talk about it. So we push it away. Well, eventually that stuff we push away, it's like a festering wound. It can just get worse and worse and worse until we explode like a volcano, until we can't ignore it anymore. And then, maybe things are a lot worse than they could have been. Now, that's not always the case. And it's not saying that if you've experienced trauma, that you're doing it on purpose. Oftentimes we don't really realize we're doing it. It's just to survive. It's a survival mechanism. We put things off and we avoid because we want to feel good. And in the moment we do. We put things off, we push things off, and we feel better. But those things can add up. So I just wanted to kind of talk about how trauma is a healing wound. Trauma is like a healing wound, and we have to take care of our trauma. We have to take care of ourselves and work through that trauma and finding the right person, the right modality, the right treatment methods, or multiple treatment methods to help you get through. And I've talked about some of those other treatment modalities and things that you can do, especially related to trauma. We can heal our nervous system. We can heal our gut health, because that's going to help us. We process stress and we stress eat. That's going to affect our gut negatively. And all of that is connected. Our gut and our brain are connected. So if we feed our gut bad stuff, we're feeding our brain bad stuff. And, it's not working together, and, we can make things worse for ourselves. But there's chiropractic care, there's acupuncture, there's massage, there's, things like yoga or any kind of exercise. All of those things can be healing and done in conjunction with mental health therapy. And there's lots of other treatment modalities out there that can be used as well. But those are just to name a few that you can use in that process of healing. And it may be painful to experience some of those things as well. And in doing so, you walk out of there, maybe not that day, maybe it's the next day or a few days later, you feel better. So as I was preparing for this podcast, if you are watching it, I have here, I haven't yet thrown it away. Don't ask me why. But this is a cast that I had from when I was 6 or 7. I used to think I was 7. But I don't know, maybe I was 6. I'm not exactly sure now, 6 or 7 in the first grade. I broke my arm. And so this is the cast. This is what it looks like. Very small. My arm is much bigger than this now. It's so weird looking at it now. This was almost 30 years ago when I broke my arm, and how much I've grown. But this is just another example of healing, right? I needed to wear this cast to help to heal the broken bone in my arm. And in doing so, that bone was able to heal, and I am able to function normally today. Had I not had this cast, it's possible. Now, the break in my arm wasn't that bad. My son, on the other hand, had a much worse break. I think it's been about 2 years now. And if he did not seek help, his arm would have been deformed and could have caused a lot of other problems. So mine was just a small break, and I was able to heal and move on. And yeah, it was painful. And yes, this was super annoying, as anybody who's ever worn a cast on anything could probably agree with, that having and wearing a cast is not the most fun thing. And now you guys are lucky, because if there's any kids listening, or if you have kids, that they make some waterproof casts. And maybe it's not the first step, but they didn't have those when I was younger. You had to wrap your arm in the bag to take a shower, to do anything, which we had to do for my son as well. He didn't get a waterproof one until, it was steps down the road. So, maybe there's steps in it. No doctor here. I don't know why and how they do all the things they do, but I just thought this was interesting. I saw it kind of sitting off to the side, and I thought, I'll share that today. So all of that to share, today is just to talk about healing. That journey that we think maybe is a straightforward journey, often is not a straightforward journey, and takes many steps, takes twists and turns, often may feel worse before it gets better, but don't give up. Just because you're starting to feel worse doesn't mean that you are getting worse. It just means to me that the healing is taking place and we're getting the yucky out, we're getting the bad out, and you've put a lot of that yuck in, and in order for it to get out, we have to kind of experience some of that and go through some of that and wade through that to get to the other side. So stick with it. If you're with me, stick with me. We will get through it, we can work together to find those solutions and for healing. But when we give up, that's where we kind of get stuck. So keep that in mind. If you're working on something and you're going through something, that healing is a process. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your provider. Sometimes we need to find new providers. That's fair. But find the new provider. Don't give up and feel like that's the end for you. There's nobody that can help you. I'm sure there is. And that is a frustrating part of healing, as well as finding the right person for you. Thank you for joining me today, and I can't wait to talk next week for Cultivating Calmness Podcast. And thanks again. Have a wonderful rest of your day.